Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. Hey gang, and welcome back. This week, I'm proud to bring you yet another EDH gameplay video. This week, I'm playing my Zedruu the Greathearted deck, and I keep an opener with Tezzeret the Seeker, Reflecting Pool, Clever Impersonator, Plateau, Rhystic Study, Celestial Colonnade, and Mistfall Plains. Sean is playing his new Nazan Revered Bladesmith deck, and he keeps a hand with Relic Crush, Forest, Imposing Sovereign, Rogue's Passage, Buried Ruin, Sword of the Animist, and Plains. Trevor is playing his Mogis God of Slaughter deck, and he keeps a hand with Rakdos Signet, Phyrexian Arena, Command Tower, Swamp, Dread, and Toxic Deluge. Lastly, Mike is playing his Jorian Rune Diver deck, and keeps a hand with Temple of Epiphany, Island, Mountain, Reliquary Tower, Whirlpool Warrior, Fogbank, and Spellbook. Trevor starts us off, and for the first turn of the game, Trevor plays a Swamp and passes to me. I drop a tap land, Celestial Colonnade, and pass to Sean. Sean plays a Plains and passes. Mike plays Temple of Epiphany, scrying the top card to the bottom of his library, and passes turn. Trevor plays Command Tower and casts Rakdos Signet before passing to me. I play Plateau and pass to Sean. Sean plays a Forest and casts Scavenging Ooze. Mike plays an island for his turn and casts Cameo of the Crescent Moon, who, spoiler alert, is going to draw us all a lot of cards. Trevor draws 2 cards for his turn and plays a mountain and then casts his general, Mogis, God of Slaughter. On my upkeep, I have to take 2 damage as I have nothing to sacrifice, and I move to my main phase playing a Tundra and casting Rhystic Study before passing turn. Sean takes 2 as well and plays a Forest. He then casts Sword of the Animist and pays the extra 1 to prevent me from drawing. Sean then swings the Ooze into me for 2 damage and passes to Mike. Mike also takes 2 damage before playing a mountain in his main phase and brings out his general, Jorian Rune Diver. Mike then casts Spellbook, which lets him draw another card thanks to Jorian, and passes to Trevor. Trevor plays a Swamp and casts Burning Sands, really bringing new meaning to the word Group Slug, and passes turn. For my turn, I once again take 2 on my upkeep and I draw 2 cards. I play Reflecting Pool as my land for turn, and hoping to slow down Trevor's punishing effects and play my own, I cast Aura of Silence. Moving to my end step, I pitch Mistfall Plains and Expedition Map before I pass to Sean. Sean's upkeep has him once again taking 2, and he plays a Plains and casts Sigarda's Aid and pays the extra 1 for Study and extra 2 for Aura of Silence. He then bitterly smashes his Ooze into me for making him pay 4 for a 1-mana enchantment, and with nothing else passes to Mike. Mike also takes 2 before he plays Reliquary Tower, and then Mike pays 4 to cast Howling Mine. He doesn't pay the extra 1, and I get to draw with Rhystic Study. Moving to combat, I quickly realize how I've basically made myself the enemy of the table, and Mike swings Jorian into me. With nothing else, Mike passes to Trevor. Trevor draws roughly 1,000,000 cards, or, in literal sense, 3, and plays Bojuka Bog, hitting me. He then casts Phyrexian Arena because drawing 3 cards a turn isn't enough to satisfy him, and he doesn't pay the 1 for Rhystic Study, allowing me to draw a card. With nothing else, he passes to me. On my upkeep, I take 2 damage, which will assume this happens moving forward unless I specify otherwise, since it's getting tiresome to say it over and over again, and I drop Flooded Strand as my land for turn. I crack it to find a volcanic island, and drop Temple Bell, discarding down to 7 at the end of my turn. Sean plays a Plains for his turn, and having had enough of all these enchantment shenanigans, pays 5, but not the 1 for Rhystic Study, to cast Relic Crush, which I immediately counter with Song. Moving to combat, Sean smashes into me for 2 again. For Mike's turn, he plays an island, and paying 5 mana, casts Chromatic Lantern, unable to pay the 1 for Study, allowing me to draw a card. Mike attacks me and passes to Trevor. Trevor's turn has him drawing 4 cards and losing 1 life before he moves to his main phase, and he drops Dragonskull Summit. Trevor then casts No Mercy, and having hit enough devotion, swings Mogis at me. Trevor has to discard at the end of his turn, pitching Dread in another card, and I activate Temple Bell to make everyone draw a card. For my turn, I play Arid Mesa, cracking it to find a Plains. I then cast Academy Rector, and Trevor is very concerned that I'll somehow find a way to cheat out Omniscience. Moving to the end of turn, I discard down to 7, and I pass to Sean. Sean plays a Plains and immediately casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting my Academy Rector, who gets exiled and has me gaining 1 life. He doesn't pay 1, and I get to draw another card. Sean then casts Sylvan Reclamation, unable to pay the extra 1, and hits Burning Sands and No Mercy, making a fast enemy of Trevor. Moving to combat, Sean swings his Bluebird at Mike for 2. For Mike's turn, during his first main phase, he attempts to kill me by casting Molten Psyche and twin casting it as he is Metalcraft active. In response, I cast Cyclonic Rift without Overload, which may be the first time this has ever happened in the history of EDH Magic, and we all wheel twice, but don't take any damage. Mike then plays Reflecting Pool and swings Jorian at me. Trevor draws 4 again and takes 1 damage, and in his main phase he plays a mountain. Trevor then pays 8 mana to cast Dictate of Erebos, denying me a card draw and paying for Aura of Silence, and moves to his end of turn. This puts me in a tight position as I'll be taking 4 in my upkeep, taking me dangerously low. While still on Trevor's end step, I let everyone draw a card with Temple Bell, and finding no answer, sacrifice Aura of Silence to take out the Dictate, which makes everyone happy but me. For my turn, I play an island and cast Soul Ring and Felwar Stone before casting Idyllic Tutor. I find Solitary Confinement and put it in my hand before casting it. With nothing else, I pass to Sean. Sean plays Canopy Vista, and with no taxing effects really holding him back, he equips the sword onto the bird. He then swings the bird at Trevor and finds a basic. Sean then casts Traverse the Outlands in his second main phase, finding 3 basics, and passes turn. Mike's hand continues to grow, and he draws a bunch of cards before moving to his main phase and playing an island. He then casts Chasm Skulker, which he doesn't pay 1 for and allows me to draw a card. Mike then drops Fevered Visions, paying 1 extra, and at the end of his turn, draws a card. Trevor draws another 4 cards and loses 1 life before playing a mountain in his first main phase. He casts Soul Ring, paying the extra 1, and drops Talisman of Indulgence, paying the extra. And Trevor then casts Havoc Festival to get around my Solitary Confinement. With nothing else, Trevor passes to me. At the end of Trevor's turn, I make everyone draw a card with Temple Bell, and Trevor draws a card from Fevered Visions and takes 2. On my upkeep, I lose half of my life and discard a card to keep Solitary Confinement out. I then cast Active Authority to exile Trevor's Phyrexian Arena, as I feel like he's drawn enough cards this game. Seeing my options are limited, I decide to go for the Hail Mary play and cast Enduring Ideal, which allows me to tutor for any enchantment in my library, but will no longer allow me to cast any spells. Thankfully, I get to put a copy on the stack during my upkeep, but it will limit what I can do. For the first enchantment, I grab Form of the Dragon. At the end of my turn, I get to draw a card and take no damage thanks to Fevered Visions and Solitary Confinement. On Sean's upkeep, he also loses half of his life, and then takes 2 damage from not sacrificing a creature before moving to his main phase. Sean then plays Sunpetal Grove and casts Sun Titan, paying the extra 1. Unfortunately, he forgets the trigger before casting Ronus the Indomitable, and Sean follows the god up by casting Lightning Greaves, which he gets to attach onto Ronus for free thanks to Sigarda's aid. Moving to combat, Sean swings all of his creatures at Trevor, dealing 10 damage and getting to find a basic. Sean has nothing else to do, and at the end of his turn, he draws a card and loses 2 life thanks to the Fevered Vision. Sean then has to discard down to 7. For Mike's turn, he also loses half of his life before choosing to sacrifice the Chasm Skulker, avoiding taking a further 2. Mike gets 2 squids and draws 3 cards on his draw step. Mike then plays an island and moves to combat, swinging the Kami and Jorian at Trevor. During Mike's second main phase, he casts an overloaded Cyclonic Rift, bouncing all non-land permanents his opponents control back to their hand. With nothing else, Mike draws a card at his end step and passes to Trevor. At this point, it's pretty clear that we missed Trevor's artifacts as they were stacked up with his lands, but thankfully, as I know how the game ends, it doesn't change much. Trevor recasts Havoc Festival during his first main phase and brings out Dread. Trevor then goes to his end step, drawing a card and taking 2 from Fevered Visions, and then discards down to 7. For my turn, on my upkeep, I lose half of my life and I get to go find an enchantment. I grab Phyrexian Unlife to keep myself in the game and draw 3 cards during my draw step. I then play Gaia Reach Sanitarium, and unable to play any spells, move to my end step, drawing another card and taking 2 from Fevered Visions. I then discard down to 7. Sean loses half of his life on his upkeep and draws 3 cards during his draw step. Sean then plays a Forest and recasts Sigarda's Aid, and transforms Trevor's Dread with Darksteel Mutation. Sean then recasts Ronus and brings out Nazan, Revered Bladesmith. He reveals Hammer of Nazan, which comes into play for free and equips itself onto the cat. Sean then casts Lightning Greaves and equips them onto Nazan and the Sword of the Animist. Sean decides not to attack and passes turn, drawing a card at his end step and losing 2 life. Mike draws a bunch of cards for his turn and thinks really hard before casting Spiraling Embers, targeting Trevor for exactly lethal. Trevor unfortunately has no way to stop this and dies. Mike then casts Fogbank, drawing a card from Jorian, and casts Thought Vessel. Moving to his end step, he draws a card and passes turn. On my upkeep, I look through my library for the best card to deal with the board, and Trevor begins to contemplate what deck he should play to crush Mike with in the next game. I choose Imprison in the Moon, and Trevor chooses Xenagos. I put my aura on Sean's General as I'm not casting it, but rather putting it, which allows me to get around the targeting issue of Shroud. I then draw 3 cards in my draw step, and moving to my end step, draw a card and take 2 before discarding down to 7. Sean plays Wasteland for his turn and activates it to take out Mike's Reliquary Tower. Sadly, Mike is running an absurd amount of redundancy effects for this, so it doesn't hurt so much as cost him a land. Sean then casts Emeria Shepherd, and paying 6, recasts Sun Titan, who brings back a Plains. This in turn triggers the Shepherd to bring back Darksteel Mutation and enchants Mike's Kami. Sean then gears up his Emeria Shepherd and passes, drawing a card and taking 2 damage from Visions. Mike casts Propaganda during his first main phase and follows up with a Blasphemous Act, forgetting that most of Sean's stuff has Indestructible. He recovers a bit though and plays Guard Gamazoa, drawing a card from Visions at the end of his turn. I respond to the end of turn by activating Gyroreach Sanitarium, forcing everyone to draw a card and discard a card. On my upkeep, I grab Dubscape so my stuff can't be bounced back or destroyed to my hand without a great deal of effort, as it would cost me the game otherwise, and play Maze of Ith before moving to my end step, drawing a card and taking 2 damage. Sean plays Ghost Quarter for his land for turn, which triggers Miria Shepherd. He returns Sun Titan to his hand, and Sean then casts the Sun Titan to bring back Scattered Groves into play. This triggers the Shepherd again. This brings back Conqueror's Flail to the field and attaches itself to the Shepherd. Sean then moves the Greaves onto the Sun Titan and Ghost Quarters my Maze of Ith. I grab an island, and Sean activates Ronus twice on the Shepherd. He moves the Greaves back to the Shepherd and pumps Sun Titan once with Ronus. And moving to combat, swings the Sun Titan at me and the rest at Mike. Mike reminds Sean that he is propaganda and that he doesn't have enough mana to pay for it, and Sean decides not to swing with the 2 remaining creatures. Unfortunately for Sean, I in turn activate Celestial Colonnade and block Sun Titan with it, taking only 4 damage. Thrown off due to his miscalculation, Sean passes to Mike, drawing a card and losing the remainder of his life from Visions. Mike's turn is quite quick as he plays a mountain and casts Niv Mizzet the Firemind and Descendant of Soromaru before passing to me. Sadly, even with the ability to find any enchantment in my library, I'm at a dangerous amount of poison damage. I grab Humility, but realize even with the lowering of power of all of his creatures, I'm still likely to die to an attack. Knowing this, I scoop it up and we declare Mike the winner of this game. Game review time. Considering that I was hated out by almost 3 players for most of the game, I think Zedruu performed very admirably. I know a lot of people often wonder why I play Zedruu as opposed to something like Narset where I could cheat spells out for free, and my reasoning is mostly that Zedruu is A, a political card, and B, a draw engine in the command zone. Sure, her ability to donate is more expensive, but once I've donated 1 or 2 permanents, I'm able to draw a lot of cards. I'm sure people will argue that I have to also protect her, but this is EDH and chances are you're going to have to protect your general anyway. Sean's Nazan deck is really interesting, and it's kinda cool to have a Stoneforge Mystic in your command zone. The deck plays like a Voltron deck, but it's heavily influenced around Bloodforged Battle Axe. To date, the most amount of token copies of Bloodforged Battle Axe Sean has gotten is 16, which is frankly absurd. He's still tweaking the deck, so look forward to seeing it in the future once it's a bit more of a tuned machine. Trevor's Mogi deck was pretty brutal, and he really went for the whole idea of group slug. I found the politics of this game particularly interesting, since Trevor had Mogus turn 3, which meant that we were all taking 2 damage or forced to sacrifice a creature, whereas I only had Aura of Silence and Rhystic Study, and yet I was the main target for hate. Mike's Jorian deck was a treat to see, and I really like how he was built around drawing so many cards and then keeping them in his hand. Mike typically doesn't play blue, and this explains why he cast Cyclonic Rift during his second main phase on that turn. And I have to give Mike props. He was able to win the game despite the fact setting himself back by using Blasphemous Act and wiping out most of his own board. Please be sure to tune in every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video, with a second video popping up sometime during the week. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta, or check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below or in the About section. As always, thank you guys for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.